Welcome, everyone, to the Squid and Ultimate Leaf Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs fan. Joining me, as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, the seesaw play of the Leafs continues in the city of brotherly love about an hour or so from now. But I'm guessing everyone's okay if they win 5 of every 6 the rest of the way.
Well, I would have to imagine they would be. I mean, that would probably be a record year, I would imagine, if they did
Yes.
that. But um, I don't like the chances of winning 5 out of every 6 for any
Uh,
team in the league, to be quite honest with you.
well, before we get into that, I got to make a comment about the muzz on your map. It seems to be growing in a little thicker. How's the November pledges shaping up for everybody out there?
It's going pretty good. It's up over 300 now, and my goal was 2,200. I know Matthews is 134,000, which is a heck of a lot more than mine. But I'm probably looking at a different demographic than he would be. So 2,200, if I can get to that or get above that, you know what? Hey, if it helps one man out there with something, then I'm happy with that.
Well said. And I can tell you from our household, Deb will be making a contribution when she's getting back later today. So she'll be making it in the next day or so. I can assure you that. So, everybody, now what do we do again? How do they make their pledges, Rick? They go to Rick Vive on your site on Instagram and just hit
Yep,
there's a link there they can go to.
there's a link. There's a link there that they can donate, and it goes in right into Movember, uh, and it'll go to helping men's health and the Movember cause, which is uh, well, it's a lot of things, I guess. It's men's mental health and prostate cancer and that sort of thing, and
Yep.
so it helps a lot of things that men are susceptible to.
Terrific. Well, guys, every little bit helps. So don't be afraid. Throw it all in there, and we love to hear from you. Well, Scott, let's get into it here. The LA game, just an off night. That's quite common in sports, or as we paranoid Leaf fans are quick to conclude, does it run deeper?
Uh, no, I mean I think it was a bad night, but there are some glaring things that I've seen, and one of them is their defense. They get knocked off the puck pretty easily. They're not the best defensively. I mean, even the guys that are supposedly their best defensive defensemen are not having good games in their own zone. Now, that's not all on the defense, unfortunately, Mike. I think the
Yep.
forwards have to come back and do a little bit more to help out the D. And they're not getting production from their bottom six. I mean, if you look at the goals, I think the last 18 goals or something that have been scored have been all by their top six forwards. So they need a little bit more production from their bottom six, and their defense the whole team has to tighten up quite a bit defensively.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you're right, and I mean, it looks to me like the plan seems to be to wear the big guys out. Like the puck keeps getting dumped in their corners. They keep leaning on these guys, and you can see that Muzz and Riley, even Brody, they're exhausted by the third
Mm-hmm.
period because they're getting pounded all game. I thought Lilligren and Sundin seem to be transitioning better each outing. They're bending as you'd expect, but not breaking so far. So that's a good sign. The other part about all of that is Campbell's been steady behind them, playing terrific. But
Yeah.
everyone's holding their collective breath that nothing happens to him. And especially now Mrazek, who has the George Springer syndrome, out again. Uh, man, oh man, they need some help. And
Well,
Justin Hogel's back in the lineup tonight.
you know what the thing is, what I don't understand, I guess, and maybe I'm not making the decisions, obviously. I mean, I don't know if Campbell's going tonight or not, but I don't know why. I mean, this Wall kid was drafted and he was a pretty high prospect as far as a goalie goes. Why not give him an opportunity? Like the perfect time would have been against LA on Monday
Mhm.
at home. And then you save Campbell for tonight in Philadelphia. I don't understand it. He was on the bench last year too and never got a chance to play. I mean, if he was a high prospect, which he was as far as a goaltender goes, very highly touted, you got to see if he can play or not. And I don't understand that.
I'm not disagreeing with you there at all, especially tonight's going to be a handful going into Philly, and we'll get into that in a second.
Hmm.
But also Friday night, you got Calgary and then Buffalo, who's been playing bad. Here's your team that's a handful,
Yeah.
everybody. They're going to come in here and, they're going to come guns a-blazing. So they're going to have to, he's going to have to give up the net one night.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I mean, yeah, but again, the other thing too, though, is that in today's game, I don't understand why goalies can't play two nights in a row. That baffles me to this day. I mean,
Mhm.
in the old days, they used to play 65, 70 games a year, for God's sakes. But again, it's give this kid a chance and see what he can do, because he was a highly touted prospect when he was drafted. So, but
You got to let him play at some
who
point.
knows? Tonight they might get 4 goals from their bottom six, and their V might play better, and the forwards come back and help out, and they win 6-1. So, then all of a sudden everything, we're not complaining about anything.
Exactly right. Well, I want to go back to looking at the LA game and kind of how the team was off. Now, where I'm going with this is you played on teams that had games like that. They had plenty of games like that, maybe in the 80s with some of those Leaf teams. But players aren't dumb. They know when it isn't working. So, from your experience, what's the mood like in the room between periods when the night is going like that and things just aren't going your way?
Well, I mean, obviously it's probably a little different now than it was in my day, I would
Yeah, but
imagine.
just from your time.
Um, it was. I'll be honest with you. When things were going like that, it was pretty quiet. Everybody was kind of self looking at each other, at yourself, and how am I playing, and I'm not playing well, or I am, or whatever the case might be. Self reflecting on the game and what they've done so far. There wasn't a whole lot said until the coach came in and then started yelling and screaming, and then things changed a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
But as far as the players go, it was kind of quiet, because everybody was kind of reflecting on what happened that period, and how badly the team played, and thinking about, okay, what do I need to do in order for us to be better the next period on an individual basis.
So, as a player, how would you mentally prepare yourself in your game to deal with nights like this? Individually, you'd say, let's face it, we all know they're coming at some point. We just don't know when.
Well, the problem is, Mike, there's not a darn thing you can do about it. There's nights where it just doesn't go your way. There's nights where your team might be a little bit tired because your schedule, has
Mhm.
been tough for about a week or so before that. And it's not like your back-to-back games. It's like when you play 4 and 6 or 7 or something like that. That last game on the seventh day could be a very difficult one. So it's not necessary. And then there are just some nights where it just everything you do goes wrong, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. It just happens, and that's why it's a great game, because you never know what the heck's going to happen before the puck drops.
Well, it's the complexity of sports. So, this is where some guys
Yeah.
would maybe go out and run somebody, chop somebody, fight somebody, shoot a puck at the goalie's head, anything to kind of just get some attention and get things stirred back your way, maybe, and throw the other team off any way you could, I would assume.
Well, everybody did that back in our day, Mike. Everybody got in a fight or banged someone. I mean, I used to, if I was at a bad angle, that shot was going high and it was going at the goalie's head. And if I hit him, hopefully I didn't hurt him too badly, but it was going to be up there, because the next time it's going to be down on the ice, and hopefully he's coming up like this, worrying about that high shot, and then it goes by him. So
Yep.
a lot of that happened in my day, and if things weren't going right, then it usually ended up in a 5-on-5 brawl for the most part.
Those are the good old days, old time hockey. So, who caught your attention this week? We've touched on a couple, but good or bad from the Leaf standpoint?
Um, well, Campbell, obviously, I
Yeah,
mean, he's played excellent all year long. I don't even think he's really had a bad game. Um, the top four guys are playing pretty good.
correct. Yes.
They're all producing. They're all playing pretty well. Marner is another guy that a guy I look at and go, okay, he's really turned things around. He's the pressure is off him. He's playing the way he's played the last 2 or 3 seasons when he ended up in the top 10 in scoring. And and I got to give the kids a little bit of credit too, Lilligren and Sandin. I think they played pretty good. I mean, considering, yeah, they do get pushed off the puck a little bit in
Mhm.
their own zone defensively because they're not that big and they're not that strong. But you know what? They haven't played that bad. I mean, they've played just as good as the other four, and in some cases maybe a little bit better.
No, you can see that they're thinking a little bit out there. They get a little more relaxed. Like a very small play that Lilligren made that impressed me was the puck came down in the Leaf end. LA players went to go make a change. He stepped back to fake like he was going behind the net. It sort of thwarted off the LA guy. Then he stood in front of his net and waited for the Leafs to change. Now, you don't think that's a big
Mm-hmm.
deal, but for a kid that age, playing under the pressure he's playing under, worrying about making mistakes, to have that mindset and be calm, cool, and collect, and then he moved the puck up nicely. And then there was the other time after the bench minor for too many men in the ice with Riley. The puck came almost in a similar situation. Instead of jumping on it and panicking, he hesitated, looked at the bench to win off, and then played the puck with the LA guy coming on him. To me, those are signs of
Yeah.
maturity that, if a kid's getting that type, as that's showing that type of promise and awareness now, it can only get better.
Yeah, I remember those plays, especially the one where he came on the ice and he waited and waited to touch the puck so there wouldn't be a too many men penalty. Um, you know what? That's just getting the opportunity to play. I mean,
Yes.
these kids are good. They've got good hockey sense. It's just a matter of getting to play and learning the league and learning how to play at that level, which they haven't done to this point. And so they need a little bit of time, unfortunately. And that's the only thing that is going to cure anything that hampers those two young kids is the more they get to play, the more they're going to learn, and the better they're going to get. And
Yep.
that's just the way it is.
Well, we're seeing one other guy up front, Bunting, moving in with Matthews. He seems to be fitting. I mean, it's pretty hard to say nobody can play or anybody can play with Matthews who can't play with Matthews, but he's all over the place, and you've got to be fully aware with a guy like that is moving all around. And the way they move that puck and snap it around, you got to be on your toes. And he seems to be getting. If a couple pucks would go in for him, I think his game would go to another level. And the other guy I like is this Cachet. He's a hustler. Now he's banged up and may not play tonight, but
Mm-hmm.
he seems to be picking up. And I just sort of look forward to the day when Mikheyev is back and you could have those two as a third line pair chasing down pucks. That's something the Leafs are sorely missing, but he seems to bring a little bit of that element to the game.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. Bunting, I think, is doing a great job of playing with Matthews and Nylander, and he's getting some opportunities to score too because of
Yeah.
that, because of the way he plays. He's going to the net. He's picking up rebounds. I mean, they're not going in right now, but then the only other thing I see is he's taken a couple of penalties that were iffy penalties, 100 feet away from his net in the offensive zone, which I think he could probably get away from. But other than that, and the other guy, Kasha, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's going to play tonight. Tavares may be out as well.
That's right.
Um, but I mean, he's dogging on the puck. He doesn't give up. He's a great penalty killer. But unfortunately, those guys need a little bit. They need to chip in with some offense if they're
They do.
gonna. You can't have 4 or 5 guys handling all the offense, and they're you just can't. You can't be successful.
Well, and it shows you how fine a line it is because a couple of years ago, it was almost like Toronto had too much scoring. So they were allowed to let go a couple of guys like Kapanen and Johnson. And I see Johnson's got 6 goals in 11 games, and Kapanen got a trick the other night. So somebody
Mm-hmm.
has to fill that role. And, those guys, the pucks are going to have to start going in at some point. But we have to realize, though, look, this is the best league in the world with elite players, and elite players make elite plays both defensively and offensively and are paid handsomely to do so. The point is, They coach are going to do their job occasionally. Okay, so I'm referring to the other team. So like a couple of like Trevor Moore, the goalie, I knew that was coming. Of course, hadn't had a point all year. First shift, and it's almost like he's down around the defense and moves it. It's just going to happen. They're good
Well,
players, and it's going to go the other
yeah.
way occasionally. But it's just where we have to let that happen less than it does.
Well, yeah, you're right, and I mean, because it doesn't matter who you're playing. Every night that you're going out on the ice, you're playing against a team that probably has 4 or 5 really, really good players,
Exactly.
and they're gonna do some amazing things. And I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. It's just gonna happen, unfortunately. Like you said, Mike, it's the best league in the world, and every team in the league has 4 to 6, some 8 exceptional players, and that's just a reality. And some nights those guys are going to outplay your top guys, and they're going to beat you.
Well, ask those 4 New York Rangers how they feel after McDavid's goal last week. Okay, standing there and watching him as he around like a pinball machine. So now it's in the Philly tonight. It doesn't get any easier. Always a tough place to play.
No,
Let's go back in time. Do you remember your first game in Philly?
no, I don't really remember my first game.
Yep.
I remember a game at the end of the season. It was our last game of the season. We were not making the playoffs. We were going into Philadelphia. About a week and a half leading up to that game, I think 8 guys went down with bad groins, whatever, little injuries. I think we had 9 guys in the press box, and we didn't even dress a full lineup, and we lost 7-1. And then Harold Ballard rewarded us by taking us to
Atlantic City.
what's the casino place there?
Atlantic City.
Atlantic City, and then the plane was taking us back to Toronto at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Which I thought was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Is that your owner is taking you there to have fun after you miss the playoffs? Didn't make any sense to me. That's for darn sure.
Well, yeah, and there's all kinds of stories, as we've been told by many, many players over the years, that the minute a player slips that Flyer jersey over his head, he instantly grows a foot taller. And we had Tiger Williams. Now, folks, we like to self-plug ourselves all the time, but if there's one podcast you should listen to, it's this 2-parter with Tiger. He just lays it all out there and says it like it is. And he told us a great story about when he was playing with the Flyers in their heyday and the craziness was going on. He reminded a number of them that they might not always be a part of the wolf pack surrounding them and giving that little extra bravery, and they might be on their own one day. And Bill Clement, I won't ruin the story because you want to listen to the podcast, kind of forgot those words. And when he ended up in Atlanta, Tiger gave him a quick reminder one night.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was excuse me, that was a good story. And well, Tiger's a very colorful individual, and I mean, he could handle any of those guys on the Flyers, but they're a different team now, and they made some moves in the off season as well. Voracek was moved out, and so you know what, they're a different team, but their record so far has been pretty darn good, and they're always tough at home. Philly, I don't know what it is. It's like, I mean, they don't have the same type of teams anymore. They don't run you, they don't fight you, they don't kill you or anything. But
it's still that name.
I don't know. There's just something about playing at home for the Flyers. They seem to do well at home.
That's all. Remember, Boris Salmi told us his first time there. He went in and locked up with the guy. Next thing you know, the gloves are off and they're fighting. And in between periods, a couple of the guys said, "Do you have any idea you were fighting?" And he said, "No. Who was it?" Dave Schultz. He's the absolute king of assassins in the NHL. So, needless to say, he knew he was after that and didn't go near him too often. But Justin Hole back in the lineup turned out for a 5-game absence. All eyes are going to be on him. It's a little different role for him now after playing top 4 minutes the last year and a half. If you could sit him down 50, and I'm sure he's probably listening as they're sitting there in the dressing room now, and if you could throw him some advice, what words would you give him before he played tonight?
Well, I think the biggest thing would be just to relax and not think about why you didn't play the last, whatever, 4 or 5 games, why you came out of the lineup. But look at the way you played last season and early this season, and just relax and go out and play that exact same way. Play your physical game, play a good defensive game, move the puck, and don't worry about anything else because I mean, a lot of guys, but he's probably a guy that's been around long enough in the minors and then in the NHL that he probably understands. But there's a lot of kids put in that situation. They'd come back in, and as soon as they made one mistake, they'd be done for the night because they're thinking, "Oh my goodness, I'm coming out of the lineup again for
Yep.
sure." But I don't think he'll be like that. I think if he makes a mistake, he'll recover. And I like the way he plays. I really do. Defensively, he moves guys in front of the net. He plays a pretty physical game back in his own zone. And for the most part, he gets the puck and moves it and gets it out of the zone. And he doesn't cough it up very often.
Well, he carries the puck well. His exit pass is excellent, I believe, from what I
Mm-hmm.
watch of him. And he's a big body, so he does get in the way out there, and that's going to take some of the pressure off the other guys because, as we've said, Sundin and Liljegren aren't physical types, so the pressure's all going on the other 3 or 4 to really lay the bot, and it's taken a lot out of them. So he's going to be a welcome addition tonight, and we just hope that everybody's patient with him because, as we said, it's very easy to suggest playing relaxed. It's another very difficult thing to execute. And again, that's got
Yeah.
to be in your mind that, you're an errant pass or giveaway or a wrong stride somewhere or a puck going the wrong way from ending up with another seat in his bleachers again. So you got to put that
Yeah,
aside.
I don't think I honestly don't think he'd be thinking that going out there, Mike. I think
I
he's
hope
been
he doesn't.
around long enough, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be
Good.
fine out there. And if he makes a mistake, he'll recover and get back into the game, and he'll make some good plays after that. It's those real young guys that when they get taken out of the lineup,
Yeah.
sometimes it they get that feeling that oh gosh, I made a mistake. I'm going to be out of the lineup again. But the one guy like Jake Muzzin, he looks like he's worn down a little bit. I don't know what.
That's what it looked like to me. Tired the other night. Looked tired.
Yeah, he looked really tired, and I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's we got to give him the benefit of the doubt, obviously, because we don't know. But don't forget too how much hockey this guy's played in his career. I mean, Stanley Cup twice. That's a lot of playoff game. They made the playoffs a lot of years in LA as well. So he's played a lot of hockey during his career, and his game is very physical.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that takes its toll. So, hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's not hurt, and he'll bounce back and get that energy back because he's a critical part of their defense. There's no question.
Well, and I'm sure also going back to Hull, I'm to your point, I'm sure that Keith kept that in the back of his mind that he is a seasoned veteran, so he should be able to handle this, and it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
really impair his judgment when he goes to do something tonight, hopefully. But he's got to be thinking about it a little bit. So we'll be wishing him well. So Squid, it's time for your favorite part of the show, the quote of the week. I know you like these. We're going to dedicate this to those struggling to find their way and find the back of the net. And this is for Justin Hull's return to the lineup. As we've said many times, he just didn't forget how to play hockey one morning when he woke up. He'd been playing it his whole life.
Exactly.
So based on that, here's this week's inspirational quote for those guys. You ready?
I'm ready.
If you hear a voice within you say you cannot paint, then paint, and that voice will be silenced. Now, that came from a guy who knows his way around a paintbrush by the name of Vincent van Gogh. So,
Yeah, but he can paint.
well, that's what I mean. The voice inside his head saying he couldn't, and he did anyway. Well, if that doesn't work for you, then
I don't know how many times I can tell myself that I can paint, and there's no way I'm going to be able to paint like him anyway.
Well, if that one doesn't work, let's pull an old one out from our good friend, Jim Howie McKinney. I'll give you a double verse tonight, just in case the first one didn't sink in.
Okay.
Here's one from Howie, who's once said of hockey, half the game is mental, the other half is being mental. An oldie but a goodie.
That is a goodie. I understand the first one. I really do. It's just that I don't care how many times I tell myself I can paint. Ain't happening. I mean, yeah, walls, yeah, but drawings or pictures, forget it. It's not happening.
Well, that's right.
But I do understand the quote. So
Good.
you are right,
The
because
streak is alive.
if you keep telling yourself you can do something, chances are
Exactly.
you're going to have a better chance of getting it done.
And worst case fails, just like me with my toolbox, I have two things in it. One, a checkbook, and two, a pen. Works every time. So based on that, folks, before we go, go ahead, Squid.
You're a smart guy, Mike.
Why not? Folks, before we let you go, a little shameless self-plug here. This weekend, the Hockey Expo is happening at the International Center at the airport. All things hockey, lots of autographs, lots of guests. I'll be at booth 1307 and 1309, selling copies of my two books, Inside the Room and The Ultimate Road Trip. Of course, also talking hockey. In honor of the expo, Squid and I will be hosting in the same room. We're both together tomorrow night in the same room. This will be a first since our early days of taping a couple of our podcasts. For a special edition tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, we'll be taking questions concerning the Leafs about Rick's career, whatever you want to talk about. Send them to mike@ultimateleafsfan.com. That's mike@ultimateleafsfan.com. And ask them about Rick or anything you want. You mostly want to talk about, you want to hear about a stiff like me. You want to hear about Squid. So Squid will answer any of his questions playing for the Leafs and scoring 50 goals 3 times. He's got lots to talk about. So you can ask all kinds of questions. And in the meantime, don't forget also, we're just loaded with stuff for you guys. And that's probably why everybody's turning off. Don't forget this week's podcast of Squid and the Ultimate Leafs Fan drops Fridays at 6 p.m. Bernie Nichols this week, who is not only an elite goal scorer, but quite the prankster during his time as well. Tune in and listen how he pranked Squid at the World Championships in 1985.
An elite prankster, Michael.
An elite,
he was an elite
prankster. And he got everybody. He got Scott Stevens, Marcel Dion, Squid, you name it, he got them all. Gretzky, he got them all. So that's worth a listen this week. But tomorrow night, tune in at 8 o'clock and have a listen. We'll take your questions. We're going to talk a little. We'll talk about tonight's game, and we'll talk about what's upcoming for the Leafs. But until then, everyone, good night. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night.